Hello everybody and welcome to Hockenheim, where we have the fourth round of the Apex Racing Academy F3 Championship here on iRacing. Some say that this circuit has lost a bit of its character ever since we don't dive into the forests and come back out again anymore on our lap. However, this 16-turn circuit is still an absolute classic on the calendar and is the first European round of this season. My name's Ewan O'Leary. I'm alongside Lorenzo Bonda for this broadcasted by RaceSpotTV as always. And Lorenzo, we've got a big hairpin down at turn 6. We were talking about it before. We're quite worried about it, and we're looking forward to a light sprinkling of chaos, I'd imagine.
Let's hope that that doesn't become true into lap number 1, because it can get chaotic. I think we know historically lap 1 at Hockenheim, I think regardless of layout, is very chaotic, especially that turn 1 at a 90, I would not say 90 degree, but it's kind of like 80 something degrees hairpin in terms of radius turn, right hand turn, so it's very tricky for you to navigate that. Then we have turn number 2, which is also a very tricky hairpin for you to negotiate, and then we have the turn 6 hairpin, which is the main point, passing point of the track, but it's the main diving point of the track. We see some sketchy moves, I think, in Creventic Endurance Series, but can't wait what the F3s will do in this track, because it's a car and a track combination that I like really much.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, certainly. Watkins Glen, Long Beach and Suzuka are the circuits that have come before. Felipe Drugovich, Flavio Dantas and Raul Hyman have all taken victories so far. There is our schedule. It's the first of the European rounds. As I mentioned, we've got a bit of a block of European rounds going on to bring us to halfway, with Alton Park next week, followed by the legendary Spa-Francorchamps circuit at the halfway mark. And then we go out to Australia, Canada, and back to Europe again for the final 4 rounds of our season. But yeah, I totally agree. This F3 car's a fantastic one, and around this particular circuit it's going to be great. I think it would have been really quite chaos if they'd have run all the way out into the forest and into those chicanes. It would be very scary. So let's not do that. We're going to be on the modern GP circuit, of course. 16 turns, as I mentioned before. The obvious overtaking opportunity is down into turn 6. Turn 2 can be used as well as quite a launching point for maybe a bit of an overtake, and if the battles do indeed persist throughout the hairpin and into the final sector, then things can get very interesting into the Mobil 1 curve and the Sachs curve. So qualifying underway right now. We've seen even last week, getting yourself caught up in traffic is very, very important to avoid here, Lorenzo, and that's what all these guys are going to be attempting to do over the next 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, I think their mindset will, get the best place in the track, especially if you get like top 4, even at maybe 5th would be a relatively good position for you to be in. And I think even 6th, if we want to talk about it, because 5th you get on the outside, you can stay on that outside lane and be safe with it as you go into turn number 1, and would be a chaotic start. But in the midfield, I think things where it gets very, very interesting, in my opinion, because you really don't want to be anywhere between top, like in P10 all the way down into P20, because it gets so clustered, and you want to try to navigate where you want to go, what's lane you pick in the beginning of the laps. So it's a track that demands patience. Doesn't demand as much patience like you probably needed in Suzuka, because it eventually opens up a little bit. This track is way wider than Suzuka. I think it is twice the size in terms of width in terms of Suzuka, but it's a very interesting track in terms of patience, how you negotiate those first few laps.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got Falcon currently leading the standings ahead of Droiter, Mini, Dantas twice in 4th and 5th, just over 3 temps down. We're currently on board with the 15 in 15th. Mitchell Ian Green is going through the final couple of corners right now. Going to try and pull himself from 9 temps back to wherever this is going to put him, with 1 minute 20 still on the clock. Is it going to be enough? It's going to be enough for a top 10 place at the very least. 5 temps down for now. We've got a fairly close gap from, I would say, 4th down to 7th. We've got about half a tenth, but up the front of the field, 1/10.5 around a circuit like this, I would say, is a fairly impressive margin for Falcon to have actually pulled off here, Lorenzo.
I think so as well. It's a very tight gap that the drivers are actually putting in this track, and can't wait to see. 1.8 seconds. It doesn't sound much. It might sound much for this track, because it looks like you have a whole day to actually catch up to someone else. but it's so wide and so difficult for you to actually get a really good lap in this track that 1.8 is easily to make up just because of the chaos that you're probably going to be inserting yourself in the first few laps of this race and how you try to get away with it. So very, very good field so far.
All right, Adrian Falcon is going to be on pole for the fourth round of the Apex Racing Academy F3 Championship here at Hockenheim. We'll be back with the race after this. Welcome back to Hockenheim, where we are preparing for the race, the Apex Racing Academy F3 Championships fourth round at the Hockenheim. It's Adrian Falcon who's going to be taking pole position ahead of Paolo Dreiter and Gabriele Mini, Flavio Dantas ahead of Felipe Puyol Dantas and Dario Agnello, rounding out your top six with 3 Italians and 3 Brazilians. Conor Wagner is in 7th ahead of Alex Johnson, and then Mitchell Ian Green, who jumps himself up to 9th very late on. Fran Riro is in 10th ahead of Nicholas Rasmussen. Rod Kleinard is in 12th ahead of Joshua G. Wilson. Alex Fournier is in 14th ahead of Connor Bell and Thiago Spencer on the row behind them. Dante Macedo is in 17th alongside his compatriot Paolo. They're in 18th. Boya Zazo is in 19th. Donato Garguso. Alex Sevillino. I'm struggling with some of these names, but anyway, he's alongside Iago Fernandez in 22nd. Claudio Visparelli is in 23rd ahead of Giuseppe Guarino in 24th. 28 cars on the grid here today with Davidone, Colle, Fag and Cullen, the final 4 guys on this grid. Just gridding up now, as you can see, and it is going to be Falcon versus Dreiter on the front row 1 and 2, and then the Dantas, I don't know if they're brothers or not, but they've certainly got the same second name in 4th and 5th position. Going to be interested to see how they funnel themselves through turn 1, which is going to be a sticking point for track limit throughout the day, and it's the hairpin where we're expecting most of the action, but the revs are now rising and the 4th round is underway. Now it's a very good start from Falcon off the front row, and he's going to get his own line into turn number 1. Dreiter in 2nd place ahead of Mini, who single files himself out in 3rd. The top 4 or 5 actually getting themselves single file right now. It's been clean in the background for now. The first braking zone of the day into turn 2 though is upon us, and it looks like everybody's got themselves through there pretty cleanly as well, as they all weave around and try break the slipstream down into the hairpin.
And now we're going to see the very dangerous areas. We saw twice 3 wide going to the hairpin, but here comes now Dantas on the inside, looking for the inside, but I think that is right in front of Dreiter going on the inside line and trying to go for it, but couldn't defend from Gabriele Mini. So the Italian moves up to P2.
It does indeed. It's been very clean around the hairpin for the first time, which we are delighted about, because all 28 cars are still in the running for this race. That's very late on the brakes, and that's the battle for 5th place going on between Conor Wagner, who's made a fantastic start, and Dario Agnello as well. They've taken advantage of Felipe Puyol Dantas, who's not made a good start in this one, I'm afraid. Flavio Dantas has stayed in 4th place, just in front of him, but look at that curve there. Turn 11, he's really gone out very wide there, Dantas. Clearly, when you have a start like this, you can get rattled a little bit. That may have happened to the Brazilian we're on board with right now.
And it's very easy for you to actually bottom out the car in those curves, depending how the car is actually set up going into the arena. So good to see that the Felipe Dantas car is not actually bottom out. It goes on the inside, very aggressive, moving to turn number 1 here.
That is very, very wide indeed from Agnello, and he didn't really have much choice about it, but Green and Riro are going to be straight down his inside, and he's from 6th place all the way down to 9th and further back now. I'm not entirely sure what is going on, why he's dropping back so much right now, but clearly an aggressive move, maybe too aggressive for this early stage in the race.
Slow down, maybe. Mostly likely a slowdown that could have affected him. So unfortunate to see that slowdown being played into effect.
Yeah, it is indeed. He could be absolutely bang on with that, actually. It's all the way down to 10th place now. He's actually making up some more places. There, now the hairpin strikes. We've got a couple of cars around, a couple of cars on top of each other down there at the hairpin, trying to reverse out of each other's way. It's the 23 and the 13. Joshua G. Wilson is one of them, and he's spinning back around to get back going again. Unfortunate, but the cars were so clumped up together. You've got slowdowns, people slowing down, people trying to go forward. It was always going to be a mess.
Yeah, he's always going to be a mess right there. So that is really unfortunate to see. But fortunately, only 3 cars, I think maybe 3, maybe 4 cars got heavily involved into that. So not a whole lot of damage to other cars. That could have been so much worse. But in general, really clean race. These first few laps of couple laps of this race as we open up lap number 3.
Indeed, Adrian Falcon opens it up, and it's a 1:31.3 for him, which is the fastest lap so far in this race. Hard to see that being beaten at this point, with everybody else battling like headless chickens, and Falcon out there on his own at the front of the field. This is the kind of battling I'm talking about as well. Riro and Green going side by side into the second turn. Fran Riro gets in front for now, but he doesn't look like he's going to stay there for very much longer as they go around the left-hander, which is called the Parabolica at this circuit. It leads it straight into a hairpin, much like it doesn't do at Monza. Into the hairpin they go, and Riro's going to try and hang it around the outside. Green is going to have the inside line though, and it's a long way round there. A difficult defence for Riro to make. It doesn't look like he's going to be able to manage it, so Green is going to keep hold of 7th place for now.
And for me, what's impressive for Green so far is that he was just on the Indy Pro 2000 broadcast fighting for podium. So it's good to see Ian Green getting, small practice. I saw him practice surface, but getting into places so far. Oh, look at the incident we had on the hairpin. Oh, what a cluster of cars.
Yeah, it was a massive cluster of cars, I'm afraid to say. And I believe that Giuseppe Guarino was one of them involved in it. Dario Agnello, by the way, has just dropped a long way down the field into 25th. So that's a shame to see after a good start, comfortably inside the top 10 for him. But it looks like Guarino, I think it was, who got spun around by... I couldn't identify the car who actually was, but he got spun around by somebody. And Wilson, despite the fact he went steaming into that turn there, he didn't actually cause an accident. So he just got caught up in one. So it was unfortunate for him, I guess. But yeah, fortunately only 3 cars, I guess you could say, were involved in that one. And yeah, no more were caught up because there was about 10 cars very close in attendance as we're seeing one of these trains starting to form. We saw this at Suzuka actually, where a lot of trains were starting to form, especially guys who had poor starts will be looking to move forward now and get on with their race just a little bit. They're going to be quite aggressive through traffic as well, because this is not a long race.
Yeah, this is not a long race. This is basically full-on sprint, and every lap actually matters over here. I think it matters much more than we probably had last season, the F3. So you got to make up the ground really quickly and try to move up. That's why there's a high rate of attrition in F3s. But it provides really good racing nevertheless as they go into the Mercedes era.
Do indeed. Alex Johnson gets shuffled out. Well, he briefly got shuffled out, but he did a very nice cutback and gets straight back up into that position there as a side-by-side going on through the Mobil 1 curve. That's brave stuff between the two of them. Oh my goodness, into the Sachs curve as well. This is quite brave as well. Boyazazo right on the outside, battling in this battle for 10th place with Rasmussen, who's now got a taste of his own medicine. He's on the outside line. It all stacks up, and there's a spinner back in the background at the penultimate corner. Oh dear, that was always likely to happen. Front wing off, I'm afraid, for the number 8 car of Spencer, and he's going to have a long road back to the pit lane.
Yeah, that is really unfortunate for both for Spencer and Iago Fernandez, who actually got checked up by the driver ahead. And I think that driver ahead was just from Alex Fournier, who it looks like, as you guys can see, the cluster of cars happened. And unfortunately, Spencer just couldn't do anything about it. The contact was eventually bound to happen, and really important to see the Brazilian off this race.
Yeah, it is indeed, but you're right, the stack up there, it was bound to happen really. So the 16 and the 6 going side by side, and you guessed it, it's Boya Zazo and it's Nicholas Rasmussen going side by side again. Rasmussen's gone sailing into the hairpin there, and he's been forced on the outside line once again here for this little right-handed kink before the somewhat Mercedes arena here at Hockenheim. A left and then a right, and making use of the left is Rasmussen, but Boya Zazo blocks him on that inside line, and he gets up into 10th place once again, or at least holds it just for the moment, with Alex Fournier watching on behind and probably loving this.
And look at a little bit behind on the frame right there. I think that is, like I said, Sevillano Liedo having to defend from Alex Johnson. So Johnson managed to retain the position, but Liedo on the inside trying to go for the dive, but just couldn't work with it.
I'm very glad you're here to sort out some of these names, by the way, Lorenzo. You've got a much better grasp of it than me.
It makes it easier.
Johansson up into another place then, into 14th. Lado just in behind in 15th with Visparelli, Claudio Visparelli just in behind there in this nice little train that we've got going on. Flavio Dantas, by the way, is just on the fastest lap of the race, and that was almost identical with Falcons, or just very similar to it anyway, a 30.7. So those two are pretty well matched on pace, but Dantas is looking to get second place away from Gabriele Mini, who's currently holding it, and it won't be for very much longer. Into the hairpin goes Dantas, and he gets it, but Mini's going to get a good run off of this corner, might have a dive into the Mercedes arena, might have to as well, because it looks like Dantas has got a bit of pace over him right now.
Yeah, you do see that Dantas actually managed to make the really good move into that corner. You know, and Mini just let him by. You know, why fight so harshly into the corner specifically? So good to see that Dantas moved up one spot.
It is indeed the race winner from Long Beach. Let's not forget that was a pretty chaotic race, and yeah, thankfully we've toned back on the chaoticness in the last few moments. But Flavio Dantas has not turned down his pace by any stretch of the imagination. He's second place right now, just over 2 seconds behind Adrian Falcon, who's currently driving in a very similar way to Ryo Hyman did last week at the Suzuka race that we saw. He got into the lead very early on and then held a very similar gap all the way to the flag. So let's hope that somebody can challenge the leader on this occasion, but it looks like it's likely to be Flavio Dantas on this occasion rather than Gabriele Mini. Although Mini can still benefit from this, he can draft in the slipstream, of course, and maybe get pulled along into this leading battle if he's got the pace.
Yeah, but I think Falcon's pace so far has been so consistent and so good that it's been very hard for the leaders to catch up and do anything whatsoever. As we're seeing multiple fastest laps holders, even though the pace from Falcon so far from the DRS Wave Italy driver has been so good that I don't think Dantas will be able to actually catch up. It will become something like a mistake to Falcon to allow Dantas, Mini, and Draeta and Wagner to actually come in and battle for that position.
It could indeed take something like that, yeah, as we go into the hairpin again with another battle involving Boya Zazo. It's, of course, Nicholas Rasmussen and Alex Fournier in behind him, but also this time they've got another 7 cars joining them very close through the right-hand kink, and it looks like a switch to the inside for Rasmussen this time. Didn't work out for him last time, might not work out for him this time either, because he's got the over and under as Zazo around the outside through turn 10. It's nearly enough, and we're seeing deja vu all over again as into the Mobo 1 curve. They nearly go side by side all over again, and fortunately this time Zazo saves himself the trouble of having to do that and just holds on to 10th place anyway. Rasmussen is in behind Fournier there as well. Johnson in 13th ahead of Gogiso in 14th, who's had a good race so far. He's been up there, but dive from Rasmussen at almost every opportunity right now.
Yeah, it looked like that Rasmussen would have been much more aggressive going to Sudketa, and didn't connect whatsoever. He had to back off and nearly touching the diffuser out of Zarza, but that brings Fournier now into the inside of Rasmussen too. So the Danish is going to have to defend now for his position.
He is indeed. He's gone from attack to defence in a matter of corners here, and Fournier's down his inside, but they are able to hold it side by side through 3 and 4, and now into the Parabolica they go. Rasmussen holds on for now. To the outside goes Fournier. Where's Johnson going to go? Is he going to go right down to the very inside and try and take both of them in one? No, he is not. He's going to keep it too wide for the moment. It's Rasmussen. Fournier goes very, very wide, and Johnson is going to be all too happy to fill that void and get in into 12th place. Side by side they go up into the Mercedes arena once again. It's going to be Fournier on the outside by the looks of things, or maybe on the, yeah, it's on the outside, and he's going to sweep right round there. Johnson can't do anything. So by the end of all of that, none of them have changed positions, somewhat remarkably.
Yeah, there wasn't a big change of position, just drivers, calling themselves back up to kind of their original spots of sorts. But that actually brings Gargisa and nearly running off the track, Gargisa.
Goodness me, if these guys are pushing very, very hard indeed. So yeah, don't fault their commitment, certainly. In this one, it's a battle, by the way, that's going on well outside of the top 16, and this train's going on to 70. It's with Ben Cullen, who started on the back row of the grid, let's not forget. He's nearly gained 10 spaces, or he might have done by now, but yeah, he's certainly climbing the order like a ladder at the moment, really, and he's doing very, very well. Got himself onto the back of this train, which could be a blessing. It could also be a bit of a curse, because who knows what's going to happen in front of him at this stage. Claudio Visparelli has also had a good start from 20th on the grid. He's now up to 16th as they all go down into the hairpin once again. These guys, in the battling that they have actually done here, they've limited themselves in what they can get out of this race, because the gap between Clinard in 9th and Zazo in 10th is nearly 10 seconds at this point, so they really have limited what they can manage. But Lado is trying to at least get that 10th place, but gets on the curb and gets a bad run out of the hairpin.
Yeah, and that actually will allow Gargisa to defend on the outside, so the Italian will have an opportunity to have that to have the kind of the apex going to the Mercedes arena. It's kind of like an off-camber curve of sorts, the Mercedes arena, which leads to turn number 10, and now they're going to go into the Mobile 1 curve. So he will have a little bit of a breathing room, Gargisa, against Liedo and Visparelli right behind him.
Just a brief moment of respite, and I don't think it's going to last too long, really, given the way this battle has been going so far. It's been absolutely frantic action, but we're absolutely loving it. Lado is trying to get through on Gargisa again. Visparelli watching on from behind, but yeah, you're right, that gap is going to be closed very quickly between Fournier and Gargisa, who have got a couple of car lengths between them, about 5 car lengths right now, but it's going to be right down again by the time we reach the hairpin one more time, I would imagine. Flavio Dantes, fastest lap of the race on the last lap. Adrian Falcon's lead is down to 1.7 seconds. It's hanging in the balance at the moment, Lorenzo.
Yeah, but I think what Dante needs to do is basically shred, I think, right about 3/10 per lap. So for him to actually have a chance to be within the draft range out of Falcon. So I think the job is still very big for Dantas to do. But I know Dantas from leagues and things like that here in Brazil, so I know he's fast and can catch up, but I think he has to put that extra work and get on with it. And oh no!
Well, it's a position for everybody, I'm afraid, but Gargisa has gone down to 17th. I think there was a touch in the rear from what I could see there. I think there was contact. We'll try and get another look for you in a few moments' time and get that on replay, but from where I was sat, Lorenzo, that definitely looked like contact to me.
It does look like contact during re-acceleration out of Gargisa, but then again, it's a tricky corner, but to go under acceleration, the rear end can step out really easily. But I think I do agree with you. There was some contact that kind of helped out a little bit, and Falcon now strikes back with the fastest lap of the race.
They're trading fastest laps at the front of the field. It's absolutely fantastic to see. A bit of a hot lapping session going on between them, but we're watching this action in the midfield, because it is absolutely punches thrown everywhere right now. 6 laps to go as they cross the line. We've got Boya Zazo in 10th place ahead of Nicholas Rasmussen, and then in 12th place we've got Alex Johnson, Alex Fournier just in 13th, and then a small gap to those in behind now, including Lado, Visparelli and Cullen, who are in a bit of a battle of their own. But let's see what Johnson has got for Rasmussen here. 2 Scandinavians going at it, and into the hairpin they go. Johnson's going to get the slipstream off of Zazo and breezes straight on by.
Not surprised at all to see that maneuver from Rasmussen and let Johnson go on the attack. Apparently, Johnson has been a faster driver during the stint, so I'm not surprised to see him being passed. And I don't think Borja has actually the skills to be able to defend. He is going to have to be very hard on the defensive against Johnson right here.
He is indeed, and I was somewhat surprised to see that he was going to have to be defensive so quickly there. because Jonsson, no quicker than he got through on Rasmussen there. He was straight on the attack again of Boya Zazo, who's trying to hold on to 10th place very, very valiantly indeed. He's putting on a great fight right now and a great show for us, but it's going to be frustrating to all of those behind. Oh, that was a half look into the penultimate corner. Zazo saw the look into the mirrors and he gave him a little bit of room, but there wasn't much room to play with down there at the penultimate corner.
You know, it's hard to negotiate the penultimate corner in the last corner because even though you can actually run off into that the sausage curve of sorts, you can kind of abuse it. You have like minimal gap to work with side by side going to the final corner of Sudketa. So unfortunate to see they couldn't go side by side, but a good defensive from Zaza nevertheless, but I don't think he has it enough here on the hairpin.
No, I don't think he's going to have enough either, but he's going to give it his best shot as he has been doing all day so far. He's trying to squeeze Jonsson as much as possible. Now this is very, very clever from the number 10 car. Goes early, goes for a late apex and gets a storming run out of the hairpin into the next couple of turns, but he's going to have the outside line for the all-important turn 8. He weaves across the road. Zazo has to weave in response, but fortunately they avoid contact. As I say that, they do make some. Zazo is demoted from 10th place to 11th, and now he's got Rasmussen and Fournier to add to his troubles.
How did Zazo not get a damage on that wing of his with the block out of Jonsson in the corner? Even though Zazo's doing really well, I think it is a setup thing for Jonsson to be so quick in the straight. I think he has lower downforce than what Zaza has. He thus cannot defend what both Scandinavian drivers are doing.
Trying into turn 1 very nearly with Rasmussen there, but no way through, and he's actually made himself go a little bit wide there with Fournier trying to capitalise, but from what I've seen so far from Alex Fournier in this race, he's taking things a little bit more carefully. This is the little moment between Zazo and also Jonsson. Well, did Jonsson come over on Zazo there? Well, Zazo off the road, I'm afraid, at turn 2. I believe you saw what happened, Lorenzo.
Yeah, it was just when the replay was coming up, he actually got spun around by Rasmussen into turn number 2 and fell several spots back.
Let's have a look. Straight into the back. Rasmussen straight into the back of Boya Zaza, and that's such a shame for the number 16 to go spinning around at turn 2. It was such a great defence. He's been driving so well. His defensive driving has been immaculate. It's such a shame to see him fall down the order in that way.
It's a shame, you know, having some good defense, hard defense, but fair defense from Zazo, and unfortunate to see that turn number 2. Far more than we probably would have wanted with the 16-lap race, as we have about 3 of them.
We do indeed. It's still Adrian Falcon leading ahead of Flavio Dantas. 1 and 2 in terms of the car numbers, 1 and 2 in terms of the order, and they are being trailed by Gabriele Mini as well, Paulo Dreata and Felipe Puyo Dantas, who's recovered from a poor start and got on to the top 5 once again. He's battling with Conor Wagner for that position. And I guess a battle for 4th that's kind of going on as well, although not much positional change between them, certainly not as much as there's been going on between these guys on your screens right now as Davidone gets through. Francesca Davidone and Micheline Green down the inside, trying to hold on to that place. I thought Davidone had it actually, but Green is putting up a good fight here and into the Mercedes arena. He's going to do his best, but from what I've seen of Davidone's pace, he held the fastest lap for a good while. It's going to be very, very difficult for Green to hold on.
Yeah, good movement from Davidone on the outside, actually retaining the run on the outside. The Green being very clean, giving all the room necessary for Francesca actually to make the move. But what a race so far from Francesca, coming from 3rd to last and being 2nd, 4th to last and being more than the top 10 results so far.
Yeah, brilliant drive from him so far, and he's been able to get through the midfield chaos most importantly. which is very, very impressive indeed. 2 laps to go then as we cross the line right now. Adrian Falcon still leads 1.9 seconds in front of Flavio Dantes, who won round 2 of this championship. Are we going to see 4 different winners in the first 4 rounds, or are we going to see our first repeat winner, Flavio Dantes? Well, it's looking like Falcon at the moment, but we're waiting to see the end of this race. Of course, it's not over until it's over, until that checkered flag flies, of course, so we've got to keep watching and probably be on the edge of your seat, to be honest. To the end of the race, it's going to be nail-biting stuff for those 2 up front. David One looks like he's going to hold on to 7th in front of Michelin Green into the hairpin this time. Green was very late on the brakes last time around into the hairpin, but even that would have been too much for him on this occasion into the hairpin, so he stays behind for now. What I'm interested in, though, a little bit is the battle between Dreyer, Dantes and Wagner here. The battle for that top 5 spot looks very close indeed.
Actually, it got better for us to commentate because Dreyer actually made a mistake on the hairpin. The car got really loose during acceleration, and Felipe, who's not a fool for one, is not going to take an advantage given by someone else. He's actually going to get closer and closer, so we can see a last lap battle for P4 and P5. If Connor actually wants to get into this fight and be a little bit cheeky about it.
Yeah, absolutely. You'll see what happens. He's very wide into the final corner there, kicking up the gravel on the outside, and the fastest lap comes in by the race leader, Falcon, with a 30.3. It's wide from Dreyer in that first turn, and he's weaving around into turn 2 to break the slipstream, possibly watching his mirrors just a little bit too much.
And Wagner with a very big stint to try to close the gap on Dantas, so we can totally see a 3 wide here on the hairpin if things allows us. So can't wait to see what Dantas has on his leave right now.
Big defence from Dreyer to Dantas. Squeezes him to the left-hand side as we look at it, and then pulls to the right just before the corner. Tries to take a wide entry and a bit of a fast exit. That was very close. Wagner very nearly getting into the back of Dantas. Now can Dreyer to break the slipstream and hold on just about enough. He might have enough here. Into turn 8, he's defending again. Has Dantas got enough? No, he hasn't. Wagner goes around the outside of one, tries to do both. He can't. It looks like Conor Wagner's going to get a top 5 out of this one. Very, very impressive move from him indeed into the Mobil 1 curve. They go again. Dreyer might well get 4th place. Is he? Oh, Wagner tries to send it into the Sux curve into turn 12. It's not quite enough. It looks like Adrian Falcon's going to come around the final corner to take victory in the 4th round of the Apex Racing Academy F3 Championship at Hockenheim. It's a 2-second margin over Flavio Dantes, who's going to have to settle for 2nd. Gabriele Mini in 3rd. Dreyer holds on to 4th, but what a great move by Wagner to seal a top 5.
Yeah, we still have some few battles right in the back as we see Alex Fournier trying to go on the move on Alex Leado, so I don't think it's going to be enough for Fournier to actually make the move on Leado, so the Spaniard is going to be able to retain P12, but what a send from Conor Wagner on the Mercedes arena curve.
Yeah, possibly the best overtake of the race, and it came right at the very, very end. It was absolutely brilliant from Wagner to be able to get into that top 5, and I'm afraid Felipe Puyol Dantas is going to have to settle for a top 6. It's the first win of the season then for Adrian Falcon in this championship. Flavio Dantas is going to have to settle for his 2nd podium of this season so far, but I'm afraid it wasn't quite enough. Let's have another look at Conor Wagner in the number 7, right round the outside. This is beautiful, Lorenzo.
This is well done and well executed. Off track, here's the thing, we racers, we like to say off track is a resource when it's actually necessary to use it. So if he has an incident point to spare, why not use that off track to make that overtake, right? So it's part of racing. Racing is something sometimes you got to make those risky decisions, and Conor Wagner actually got really rewarded with that.
Yeah, he absolutely was. He was rewarded with 5th place in the end behind Adrian Falcon and Flavio Dantas. Gabriele Mini and Paolo Dreyer, who were in the top 4. Felipe Puyol Dantas was in 6th ahead of Francesca Davidone, who made a fantastic drive to get to 7th. Mitchell Ian Green with a steady drive to 8th. Rod Kleinard, who stayed out of much of the problems, in 9th. And Alex Jonsson climbing up to 10th in the number 10, which has a pleasing symmetry to it, certainly. Nicholas Rasmussen finishes just behind his fellow Scandinavian in 11th. And Lado Fournier, Cullen and Gargiso round out your top 15. Dante Machado was in 16th ahead of Giuseppe Guarino. Fran Riro dropped down to 18th, I'm afraid, after a good start. Dario Agnello, much the same. Connor Bell down in 20th, I'm afraid, in the 13. Claudio Visparelli dropped down late on, as well as Boya Zazo to finish 21st and 22nd, respectively. Caio Colle was in 23rd of Thiago Spencer, who had that spin, if you remember. Joshua G. Wilson, likewise at the hairpin. Iago Fernandez in 26th. Paulo Godoy in 27th. And Charlie Fagg rounding out your 28 drivers, 27 of which managed to get to the flag, or at least complete a sensible amount of laps in that race. It was a very, very clean race, Lorenzo. I thoroughly enjoyed it, actually. We saw some fantastic racing out there.
Oh, we saw some fantastic racing out there. Really good hard racing, especially at the hairpin, and also going to the Mercedes arena, especially with the last lap send from Conor Wagner on Paulo Draeta and Felipe Dantas. So that's why I love these F3 cars. They provide you some close racing, hard racing as well. So it's good to see that Hockenheim provided us some really good action here.
It absolutely did. Yeah, we're coming back again next week with another European round, by the way. Make sure you check it out on RaceSpotTV. We're going to Alton Park to the UK for the first time, and the one of 2 times in this 12-race season. It's the first European leg, and Hockenheim, Alton Park, Spa, all included within it. Make sure you catch it July 16th, and we'll be here at same time as normal. That is it then for the 4th round of the Apex Racing Academy F3 Championship at the Hockenheimring. It's been fantastic racing. It's been thoroughly enjoyable. I hope you guys have enjoyed it at home as much as we've enjoyed bringing it to you. I've been Ewan O'Leary. I've been alongside Lorenzo Bonza for this one, and until next week, it's goodbye for now.